So one of the more interesting Knicks players, Jeremy Lin, had did a sit down where he touched base on his come up and the only version of Linsanity that actually mattered. New York City is the only place that can create an atmosphere and just a level of hype like that. But he reflected on a lot of the highs and lows. And we'll also hear from Mike D'Antoni kind of give insight of how things were behind the scenes leading up to Linsanity. It's kind of crazy when you think about it because the spotlight has been avoiding Jeremy Lin even in his high school days, winning the state national championship, but not even being offered a scholarship from a Division 1, 2, and 3 level school. But you guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Because even in high school, it's like I won a state championship. I was California Player of the Year, and I had 0 scholarship offers. Same with the draft, just, doing really well and going completely undrafted and things like that. So it's just like it brought back all these memories of like when I had proven, more than proven, it's like I'm literally the top player in all of California. Mm-hmm. I cannot get one scholarship offer.
So you didn't have not even
no
D2 or anything?
I couldn't even. There were D3 teams who wouldn't even return my call.
Oh my God.
What the hell? And I'm like literally state championship California Player of the Year, and I couldn't get the D3 teams to. I had sent my tapes out and everything.
I'm not gonna lie, the NBA, they invest a lot of money in development leagues all across Asia, especially in China, because you already know they're trying to get that Yao Ming stimulus package again. But there is a stigma attached to that, the fact that there's billions of people, there's millions of basketball courts in China, but yet they could barely get a handful of guys that can translate over not only into the NBA, but just other professional leagues. That's why sometimes it takes a special coach to see something in a player. And that's where Jeremy Lin speaks about running to one of the assistant coaches on the Knicks, Kenny Atkinson, probably one of the best coaches to have for young players throughout the league. But of course, running into a guy like that does present an opportunity.
Kenny Atkinson, head coach of the Cavs now, but Kenny was my guy. When I was with the Knicks and I couldn't get any playing time, me and him were the first ones in the facility, the last to leave, and we just did this for months and months, and then Linsanity happened. Then me and him joined the Nets together, and I essentially called him and I told him like, yo, after this injury, like I had heard a lot about how you were like, basically you're like, yeah, after this injury, he's not the same. So you guys shipped me off to a team that's trying to lose and putting me in the hardest position of coming back from 2 straight years of injury on a team that's trying to lose.
The Nets?
When I went to the Hawks.
Oh, okay.
We were rebuilding. Yeah. And so I just told him like, and I told him I was like, I wish, because I had asked the organization, I was like, what's going on? I'm hearing these rumors, and they had told me, they're like, no, you're not in the conversations. We're not trying to trade you or anything. And I swear, this was in the morning, and that night I got traded. So clearly I was, right? Damn. And so I had a lot of hurt from that because I was like, I feel like I trusted. I was taking what the organization was telling me. Yeah. Kenny wasn't telling me that directly, but I was just telling him like, yo, I felt like we were so close, and you're my head coach that like I wish you could have given me a heads up, or somebody could have really, told me straight up. And then he ended up like really appreciating that I called him and said this to him, because I was holding on to this like, yo, like this is like my guy who believed in me from day one, and how's he gonna do that to me? And so he didn't know how much it affected me. And then he said something that was like, that blew me away. He was like, you know what, Jeremy, you're right. Maybe I gave up a little too early. I didn't realize you could come back from the injury and do that and play the way you did. So I take that. He's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, dang, like, and I think for me and him now, it's like we'll still text and we'll still keep in touch, but it just totally, like, if it wasn't for that, maybe I might not have spoken to him for the rest of my life. And without him even really knowing, because it's not like he was the one who traded me away. Yeah. He had his input into the decision, but he was not the final go, right? And so that was just something where I was like, exactly what you're saying. It's like beyond just the business side of things. It was like, that was like, I consider him like a brother. Like he made my career. He helped Linsanity, like all that happen. And so for us to be able to reconnect and be cool again after that was was priceless. So I mean, I'm not gonna name the organization because I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but there was one specific game where it really hit me. Was I had 20 and 10 after 3 quarters. We were up about 15 to 18, and in the 4th quarter in overtime, I didn't play 1 second. And so I'm looking at the assistant coach, watching our lead go down. I have 20 and 10 after 3 quarters. Like, I'm on pace to have a real nice game. And and he goes, yeah, we got the call from above. You're done for tonight. And so I was like, what? Like, who picked up the phone? How'd y'all get on the phone in the middle of the game? And he's like, I'm like, what happened? But they got a look from somebody in the crowd was like, nah, like, so me and this other player, the other player who was doing, he had like 25 after 3 quarters. They were both like, yo, those two, they're done. And so we ended up losing in overtime, and this was against another team that was also tied for last, and they were trying to get, the best projection and the odds to get the number 1 pick. And so after that, it just kind of like, it really, which the NBA has made a lot of progress on, kind of like how do we change it so that,
teams won't be tanking and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the only part of tanking that never really gets talked about, how for certain players, it could end up fucking up their careers. But now when you add on to the fact that the league is now married to gambling, the negatives from tanking cannot be ignored. But now Jeremy Lin touched base on some of the dynamics that played out during Linsanity. Linsanity only took place in New York. All the other spots he landed at are just imitators. Make no mistake about it.
The reality was, like, I had a lot of pressure, not just because I wanted to make it in the league, but I had a lot of financial pressure as well to kind of take care of my family and to pay off all the different debts and loans that we had. And so I think for me, it was kind of one of the things where it was like a dream. And whenever you have your craziest game, you're almost not, you're not like cognizant, like you don't recognize everything that's happening. You're in a zone. So when you think back, it feels like a blur, and you're like, damn, I ended up with 40 and 20. Like, how did that happen, right? I've never had 40 and 20. I'm talking about. But I'm like, it's like you don't process. It's not like you remember every single point that happened, or every bucket that you scored, or every decision that you made. It's a blur. And that's what Linsanity felt like. Was you're so immersed in the zone where every play that was happening was just happening, and it was instincts, and you're in a point where there is no inhibition, no fear, no overthinking, and you're just flowing. And that spin move against Derek Fisher, exactly.
You had 38 on Kobe.
The spin move against Derek Fisher, it was like, I don't do that move normally, and so I hadn't done that move in like a couple years, and it just came out. It just happened, and I was like,
the zone.
I remember running back like, yo, I really just hit that spin move. Like, what? Like, why did I do that? But it's because I kind of just let it all go.
That Linsanity caught everyone by surprise. They even had Kobe Bryant lying to the media, stating that he didn't know who Jeremy Lin was. Kobe definitely knew who he was. Make no mistake about it. Someone who approaches the game so meticulous like that, come on, man. You didn't know who Jeremy Lin was? All that Linsanity, the papers going crazy, people coming in from across the world to see Jeremy Lin play. Kobe really trying to have us believe he ain't hear about any of that before coming to MSG. But hey, it was one hell of a time.
And even before that, wasn't you the story about you were gonna quit before it all started?
No, I wasn't gonna quit. I did quit.
What?
Oh my God. I told the story before, but I had just gotten cut from the Warriors, and then I got picked up by the Rockets. And I went to Rockets training camp, and I was the 5th string point guard. There's still training camp. So I was the 5th string point guard. They had 15 guaranteed roster spots. They had 15 guaranteed players. So I'm like, I couldn't get a rep in the game, but I actually couldn't even get in on practice. Damn. So we're doing 2.5-hour practices twice a day, and I can't even get reps in practice because there's too many point guards. And they only care. At that time, they had Johnny Flynn, Goran Dragic, and I think Kyle Lowry, or I forget. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I think those 3. So they basically had a 3-headed monster like lineup at the point guard position. So they were just kind of figuring out who's the best of these 3.
Rotation,
And so I didn't have any reps, and so I actually cleaned out my locker. I put everything in my mesh bag. I left, and I called my agent, and I said, "Yo, tell the Rockets to cut me. I'm done because this is a waste of my time. Like, I can't even get a sweat in practice." and so I can't prove myself, and so basically, you know, my agent and my parents were like, no, you're like, we've come too far. We're not letting you do this. Cool. So I went back to practice and I finished training camp. Obviously, you know, I still ended up getting cut. But the moral of the story is 3 months later was Linsanity. But I was that close
to just
calling it quits.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, and that, you never know when your breakthrough is.
You know that picture when they got the axe?
Yep. And you don't know which one is like on the 1,000th one. The whole thing is going to break, but you don't know when.
Now, Linsanity only taking place just in a short span of time after all that. Just him getting cut by the Houston Rockets, and on top of that, the Golden State Warriors. And that's where right here we get to hear from Mike D'Antoni as he gives great insight onto how he didn't really consider Jeremy Lin, as he somewhat viewed him as a walk-on for the moment.
Matter of fact, Jeremy came up to me on Thursday. He played a little bit in Golden State at the end of a game. Didn't look very good at all. A couple turnovers, whatever. And I was just playing him as garbage time. So we come back to New York and we have him on a 10-day. It expires on Tuesday. So Thursday he comes up to me in practice. He's not even in practice. I'm trying to figure out, and I'm trying to get the names right, but like Baron Davis has come back from injury. Can he play? Shumpert, Iman Shumpert was a rookie. Can he be the point guard? Or somebody else? So I'm like looking at him practice. He's standing beside me. He walks up to me and goes, "Hey, coach, I have my car on the West Coast. Should I bring it to the East Coast?" And I'm going, "Oh, Jeremy, I don't think so. I think we better, let me get back to you on that one because, you know, that's up on Tuesday." Well, then Friday, and I have to give my credit to my assistant coaches, my brother and Kenny Atkinson. They said, you know, he's got something.
Again, there goes Brooklyn native Kenny Atkinson. He's helped out a lot of young players throughout the league, and they continuously give him a lot of props.
Kenny Atkinson, they said, you know, he's got something. He's got something. They would work him out. And I go, God, I don't see it. Does he? He goes, yeah. And I go, well, okay. They said, well, let's try it. And I go, okay. Next game, if we get a chance, we'll definitely try it. And if I'm not mistaken, Melo got hurt in that game against New Jersey at home on a Friday, I think. And he came in and we opened things up and that was it. I mean, it exploded. He was unbelievable in that game. We win that one. We win like 8 in a row. And he made a couple game-winning shots. The camaraderie, you know, the chemistry of the team was off the charts. And it was fun. It was a great ride. What's funny was at the end of the game, so Jeremy had this thing planned that he was going to say, well, I guess Kobe knows who my name is now. He didn't have the his guts to do that. He punted. He punted, but he really wanted to say that. But yeah, I mean that was the highlight. That was it. No one, you know, he was phenomenal. He hits the last shot up in Toronto. He did a lot of things. That game, what he did, and everybody else. I mean, that's where Steve Novak came in to play, and he started making threes all over the place. Jared Jeffries was great. You know, whoever else we had, Landry Fields. There was just a lot of players that by them now we're all playing well and we're all contributing. It was great.
You know, sometimes it gets overlooked of how a lot of Linsanity really said more about the Mike D'Antoni system and how compatible it is for most serviceable point guards. Knicks fans got to see a fun version of basketball with Raymond Felton at that position when Amari Stoudemire had first showed up. And now you have a guy that's barely hanging on to just being in the league in Jeremy Lin. Then you sprinkle a little bit of Mike D'Antoni in there and you got Linsanity. Look at James Harden in Houston. People won't give him enough credit, but he changed his game, especially in that 2017, I would say 2016 season where he was one hell of a playmaker. Not only he was making his shots and doing his thing offensively, but what really doesn't get said enough about him was the way he was getting his teammates easier offense because of his passing. But just dialing this right back into Jeremy Lin, he spoke about some of the dynamics that was taking place right before Linsanity and just him overcoming his fear of failure.
But actually, I was going to say this earlier because of what you were saying about letting go and the concept of letting go. But I think so much of everybody in life, not just basketball, just in life, the big, like one of the biggest things that is constantly weighing on us and preventing us from reaching our potential is the fear of failure. And so the concept of letting go is I want to see this thing happen and I'm holding too tight to it. And when you hold too tight to it, now you're scared. You're playing, you have different inhibitions. And that was the Celtics game for me. Was right before that game, during our lunch shoot around, the assistant coach came up to me, and I hadn't been playing for like the first 2 months. They weren't giving me any playing time. And he goes, "Hey, we're going to put you in the game tonight. Don't do too much." That was his advice.
What?
Don't try to do too much. So I was like, all right, cool. So I went in there and I played it safe. I was trying not to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how, I mean, you're trying not to make mistakes. You're trying to hold on to like a good result, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just very timid. I went out there and it looked like I didn't do anything except for, like you said, 2 points and 1 assist. Nothing, right? Then the next day we fly back, we play the Nets. My agent calls me at lunch, and he goes, "Hey, if you don't play well tonight, this is your last game in the NBA." Like I was literally about to get cut, and that was my last game. And it was then when I had my back literally against the wall, where I was about to get cut for the 3rd time in 3 months, where I was like, "I forget it. I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna just do me." And that's like, I let that result go, and I was like, forget it, I'm gonna just do me. And I started taking risks and doing things that I wouldn't have done normally, or I couldn't do normally. And that's when my talent and my instincts actually was able to be shown. And so a lot of it is just letting go. And I literally was telling myself, like, if you want to cut me, it's fine. But tonight, I'm playing Jeremy Lin basketball, and that's the bottom line. I'm going out on my terms, right? And so that was the difference between the Celtics game and the Nets game the next night.
That's crazy.
My agent was like, "Yo, you're essentially done." And I was like, "All right, forget it then. I'm gonna just swing."
Again, that marriage between Jeremy Lin just being a point guard and realizing he has to let go and just being in that Mike D'Antoni offense is a perfect synergy. Shit, it gave him one hell of an extra boost of just maintaining his NBA life with Linsanity. But damn, when that scouting report drops, oh man, it's a whole nother ball game. Adaptation in this league is a must. And that's the consistency you see with a lot of these great players from season to season. Right here, Jeremy Lin speaks on running into a prime Miami Heat team with LeBron James, D Wade, and those fellas were locking teams up and definitely did not want to be in the front page as just another victim of Linsanity.
And so Linsanity was at times 100,000 of just like, whoa, like what's happening? And for me, going into the Heat game, it was like I had so much hype that everybody had me circled on their calendar. And for me, I'm like, I'm just trying to make it to the cut deadline so I can have my minimum rookie guarantee, my minimum salary be guaranteed. Like I'm just trying to make it, and everyone else is like, I'm trying to end him.
Damn.
And that's the reality. Was like, you know, and credit to Chalmers and the Big Three and the Miami Heat. They had a, you know, that was kind of what everybody says, like the night that Linsanity ended, and credit to them because they did that and they put in. But to me, it was like the fact that I could garner that attention and that respect of them, like watching that much film on me and being like, tonight we're not going to let him have anything. That is a sign to me that, like, wow, like you really made waves. That's like, you really made waves. Like I was never supposed to be here. I wasn't even supposed to be playing in college, like let alone the NBA, let alone having LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and Mario Chalmers and Norris Cole and other people being like, yo, we're going to send the whole fleet to go stop him.
Yeah, we got a game plan for him. That's tough.
And so for me, it's actually like, of course, like I get a lot of hate and I get laughed at a lot, but from a different standpoint, it's like, yo, the fact that I'm even in the arena competing against these guys is a huge statement of representation. That y'all know me and you're coming to really try to end me, like, and because before that we couldn't even get respect.
And that's truly a tip of the cap, because only the best players in the NBA get that kind of treatment. That's really what makes those top guys legendary, especially LeBron James when you really think about it. Not only he's jumping in 3 different decades of the NBA, but there's enough footage of him out there where he has to revamp his game going from season to season. That's really what creates that separation of just the great players in the league. But the story of Linsanity was definitely a moment in time, and it could only happen in New York. It goes to show you the power of this city.